This is To The Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning and welcome to The Point. I'm Michelle Quesada in for Michael Williams. We start with a problem WPTV has highlighted a lot over the past few weeks in our Price Out of Paradise series. According to the Palm Beach County Administrator, the median home price reached over $500,000 last year, and the average rent for a two-bedroom apartment in West Palm Beach, for example, is $2,200, up more than 40%. The Lord's Place says right now, in order to spend less than 30% of income on rent, a single parent making $11 an hour would have to work at least 3 full-time jobs to afford the average rent in Palm Beach County. And joining me now is developer and president of Eastwind Development and chairman of the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County, Jack Weir. Welcome, Jack. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning, Jack. And so first we'll talk about a little bit about the housing market right now. It is a seller's market. Do we see this slowing down anytime soon?
I think it will gradually slow down. This problem has been building for a while, and really COVID-19 and the pandemic really brought it to a crisis stage where you've had an influx of people from out of the area, many used to paying more prices for housing. At the same time, the supply has not kept up. There was a little bit of a pause at the beginning of the pandemic because financing was in short supply. But even for the last 10 years, the supply of new housing has not been keeping up with the population growth. The Housing Leadership Council did a needs assessment, and we found out that at all levels, only 4,000 units of housing were being produced a year, while the population growth required 6,000 units a year. So it's been building, and now it's at a crisis.
And now we're seeing a huge influx of people from the north also coming down as well, buying out these homes, cash offers, all of that.
Yeah, landlords can't make these type of rent increases stick unless there's a severe supply-demand imbalance. So what we have to do is work on the supply side.
And talking about rent, it's also increased drastically over the past year. What is going on and you're seeing in the market right now?
Well, one of the things is there have been a variety of reasons why the supply hasn't picked up. There have been planning and regulatory issues, cost increases. But one of the big things is Florida was a national leader in setting up a state housing trust fund 30 years ago. For the last 20 years, the state legislature has been sweeping money out of the housing trust fund for other uses. So they've done over $2 billion in sweeps over the last 20 years. That's over $100 million in Palm Beach County. Those funds could have been combined with other funds to produce thousands of units of new housing. So really the pigeons are coming home to roost now from what we think was a bad policy decision.
It's brewing for some time now. And what are some of the solutions you and the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County have been working on and potential ways that could help out this crisis?
Well, we're in the process of unveiling a countywide housing plan. The Housing Leadership Council, which is a housing advocacy group, has been working with the County Housing Steering Committee, which is stakeholders across the board, lenders, attorneys, county officials, municipal officials, developers, and there's a plan. The centerpiece of that plan is a $200 million bond issuance by Palm Beach County, and that would be used to provide gap financing that would be combined with sources of private capital, and that would produce a goal of 20,000 new units of housing over the next 10 years. That would be workforce and affordable housing, targeting the folks that are most badly hit by the rent crisis and the home ownership issues.
Over time, and for some people, that relief couldn't come soon enough. You told my colleague Dave Bowman in a story that we aired recently that the solutions are not going to come from Tallahassee. Why do you say that?
Because we've been waiting for 20 years. Palm Beach County has a larger population than 11 states. We have to take control of our destiny. I mean, to continue on the current path means that we won't be able to attract new businesses because those employees won't be able to find a place. Our existing businesses will have trouble retaining their employees, and those of us who have grown children will not have their children be able to come back to us because they won't be able to afford a place to live. So it's really hurting us as a county as we continue to grow and diversify our economy.
What are the plans right now that Palm Beach County Commissioners are proposing for affordable housing here in our county?
Well, we're going to be presenting the plan to them on March 29th, and there's 4 aspects of the plan. So one is this bond issue, which will be combined with other sources of financing, but there's a couple other aspects to that as well. There are impact fee waivers, there are community loan pools so that homeowners can compete with investors to try and become first-time homeowners. That's the financing piece. There's also a planning regulatory piece so that you can have more density in commercial corridors. And so you can also redevelop like existing shopping centers. They can be repurposed and have residential components as well. The third thing is neighborhood revitalization. One of the challenges that we have in Palm Beach County is we're increasingly scarce on land. Yet we have all these neighborhoods that have historically been disinvested that are close to employment, close to shopping, close to schools. If we really have a concerted effort, we can reinvest in these neighborhoods and create new home ownership opportunities. And the last piece of the plan is a racial equity component. We really need to identify and tackle the obstacles, both financial and legal, that are preventing higher black ownership rates and causing issues with rentals.
You know, for the rental market, and we recently had a Facebook Live where we talked to an FAU real estate economist about this, and he said he himself is a landlord and he was working with his tenant to provide a fair market price, you know, nothing crazy like what we've seen in the last year. Is there any incentive in these plans to work with landlords to offer these incentives? I know we've talked about developers and having incentives for developers, but what about landlords?
Existing landlords? Well, part of what you can do is you can offer, in connection with rehab assistance or repair assistance, you can basically try and do either some type of deed restriction or some type of agreement with them, which in return for a subsidy that enable them to improve the property, they would restrict the rents. They would not be expending funds that they otherwise would, and in return they provide some type of benefit as well. So the easiest and most transparent way to do that is a deed restriction that says, we'll rent to folks at this level and we won't increase the rent more than this amount. It's not rent control, it's voluntary, it's an incentive-based structure, but it would start to address the problem.
What can people do now locally? I know we're waiting for these affordable housing projects to, get off the ground. We have some affordable housing already being built here in Palm Beach County. A lot of it is still underway, but what can be done at the very moment? Right.
There is not a short-term solution. We're trying to dial this down from a crisis to more of a manageable problem. You have to keep looking. You try and build up a good credit rating with your existing landlords so they don't want to turn it over. But there's not a short-term solution. There is going to be a large number of apartments, both workforce, affordable, and market, that are coming online. You see them coming up now. There's like this surge that was delayed because of the pandemic and now will be coming. So that will start to relieve some of the most acute symptoms, but it's almost like a fever. You have to wait for the fever to break, and then you have to start taking remedial action, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack Weir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Michelle.
And of course, we'll continue to talk about this and continue to cover this. Our series, Priced Out of Paradise, tackled issues from rent hikes to skyrocketing insurance costs and the cutthroat competition when it comes to buying and what's being done to protect you. Now, you can hover your camera phone over that QR code and it will take you to all of our reporting on the Priced Out of Paradise series. Still to come, a shock for South Florida politics. Congressman Ted Deutsch will not seek re-election. His reason why and reaction from our roundtable coming up.